my name is Wafa Ghermani, and I'm currently finishing my third year of PhD research on Taiwan film history, and I'm focusing on national identity in films from 1895 till nowadays. When I was reading all the studies, they were saying before the 80s it was just bad, just propaganda film and nothing good, and Taiwanese language is bad, just stupid opera films. And so I don't like when I'm told what I'm supposed to think, so I say, okay, let's check. And no one really is working on Taiwan film history before the 80s. And really in French books it's only you had like the healthy realism of the 60s, and it was bad, and that's all. So I really wanted to go back, and some people are always starting from 1949, which means 中华民国, but I didn't want to see Taiwan as 中华民国. I wanted to see Taiwan as Taiwan. So I said, let's go back to the Japanese era, even if it's long, but there are not so many films left. So it must be interesting to see how Japanese shot Taiwan, and then how Kuomintang shot Taiwan. And when you discover that they shot it exactly the same way, you're like, interesting. So yeah, that's how I started. And I wanted to study Taiyu because no one is studying that, because like they don't understand. So I tried to study Taiyu, but my Taiyu is still bad. But I really wanted to go into those films, and they were the biggest discovery and the most interesting part of my research. So when Kuomintang moved to Taiwan, there were some directors that followed them, but they were not the most famous, and they were really, most of them were coming from documentaries. So the first feature films were so, and technically it was really bad. In fact, in the 50s, the successful films were not the Guoyupian. Many people say, it's always the Chinese language film were the most famous, but it's wrong, because nobody went to see them. It was a Taiwanese language film. So many Waishengren, so Chinese people, entered the film industry through the Taiyupian industry. And there is one very famous film called Wang Ge Liu Taiwan. So it was a very big hit. But when you see this film, so this is kind of two characters, the big one and the small one, they're traveling around Taiwan. But what they see of Taiwan is really, really stereotyped. So you have the savage girls who are always trying to jump off on men, and you have this kind of the South is like a mafia country, and it's really stereotype thing. But when you see some film made by Xiao Luohui was a director who was brought up in Japan and then came back to Taiwan. He did a film called Qiuqin Mian Mian, and in this film it's really striking because the beginning of the film is a railway from Alishan, and all the credits are on this one. And the way he shoots the landscape and the city is as if it's something natural and not something to demonstrate. It's quite hard to explain. When Waishengren shoot Taiwan, it's something as if it was completely stranger to them. They don't know it, so they film in a weird way, like, I don't know where I am, and they're like a tourist. It's very touristic. And when Taiwanese shoot films, it's like it's their own place, so they shoot it in a very natural way. So it's hard to say, but it's very obvious when you see the films, in fact. If you take the films of the 50s, most of the films made in Chinese language in the 50s are always very focused on the exile, or it's always like Chinese people arrived in Taiwan and missing their home country, something like that. So yeah, you have this kind, but it's not really a problem, because at that time they are like Republic of China, so it's not like, okay, they have to build a new house in Taiwan, but in those kind of film, Taiwanese people are only like the servant. This is only the servant, and they have no Taiwanese. They only have the kind of people from the Republic of China coming to Taiwan. And then in the 80s, most of the film, because most of the directors, the most famous, not all of them, but the most famous were all Waishengren, like Ho Xiaoxian and Edward Yang. They are all Waishengren. So they did a lot of film about this problem of being a newcomer in a new country. So yeah, in fact, you have a lot of films, but changing because before during all the censorship and the martial law, it's like Republic of China, and we don't discuss that. And for after that, so you have more subtle changes in the point of view. I decided to do my PhD till nowadays. It's because first of one film was Island et une Lian Qiju. I don't know if you've seen it. A guy who drives a bike all around Taiwan. This film was a few years ago, and it was really good, and it was really something like documentary-like and really touring Taiwan. And then since then, everybody is just touring Taiwan. And also Hai Jiao Qi Hao. When I saw this film, I said, oh, okay, I just can't stop before, because suddenly something happens, and there is something new about like Taiwaneseness, and Sedic ballet is the same problem. So I'm going to stop at Sedic ballet and that one, because it's a kind of new movement, which is now really, okay, let's go back ourselves to Taiwan history. And it's not Taiwan is histories made by someone else, like it was before, like if you say the film of the 70s, like Mei Hua, which is a Kuomintang film, trying to say that during the Japanese era, all Taiwanese people were fighting Japanese and talking Chinese. And even because of censorship, it was really hard, even in Taiwanese language film, to really talk about the Japanese era. Even many films, in fact, are set during the Japanese era. They are really not critical of Japan. Not really, but it's not this kind of, they didn't have this kind of freedom. So now I think there is a kind of new movement, but it's only one director, in fact. So it's only Wei Desheng, every time. So after Hu Xiaoxian, it's a kind of new, and it's really more Taiwanese. Hu Xiaoxian tends to do Chinese-Taiwanese stuff, relations, but Wei Desheng is more like Taiwan and Japan, this kind of thing, more Taiwanese focused. Now the Taiwanese cinemas, I think the problem now is that the Taiwanese market used to be huge. So you had a lot of different films, so for maybe lower middle class, old people, young people, but now they're only focusing on young people. Like more and more films are only using Mandarin, and less Taiwanese. And Taiwanese is only for jokes. It's supposed to be fun, or maybe something, or for mafia, like in manga, they were using Taiwanese because they were like bad guys. So that's what strikes me most. It's like now Taiwanese cinema is getting more and more neutral and mainstream, and I think it's because they want to sell films to China. So. 一件说出就要放予袂记得，有情绵绵绵，你脚想也是你。